Hello guys, Furball the Hammy, your friendly neighborhood hamster, is back again for another Hypixel Skyblock video. And after playing the Dwarven Mine update for a couple of weeks, I have realized that this update is actually pretty decent, especially for the casual player, and balance wise it was pretty good. However, this video is subjective and it is entirely my own opinion, so feel free to comment down in the comment section below if you think otherwise or if you think the same. I will read every single one of them. And without further ado, let's begin with the video. Firstly, let's talk about the positives. Let's list down the positives quickly before I go through it. Secondly, good balance for both tryhard and casual players. And number 3, improving the quality of life of leveling skills. Firstly, for balanced content. Remember how dungeons felt scuffed when players could just buy a carry and get the requirements to use the best gear with just sheer money? Not that requirements should stay at Kara 34 for the Wither armor, because the average player wouldn't get there, but Kara 30 seems like a balance point. And Hyperion and the other best weapons should also be around Kara 30 or 32. However, the new mines now makes it so that you can't just start the update using the best drill as soon as you start just by paying a lot of coins. Well, you could, but that will involve you hiring a slave on Fiverr to help you grind only to get banned for logging in from 2 locations. Anyways, this makes it so that the player has to properly progress and play the game the way it was intended to be, to progress, to slowly upgrade your pickaxe over time, upgrade your abilities, and get stronger drills without being able to skip it with coins. Yes, coins will make it a bit faster, but you won't be able to just skip the entire thing just like dungeons. Furthermore, the requirements to go out from Heart of the Mountain tier 2 to 3 to 4 or even 5 really aren't ridiculous for the improvement of the pickaxes you get and the better skills you get, as well as the daily bonuses you get. Sure, you won't be able to get HOTM 5 in one day because that clearly wasn't the intention of the developers, but you can get to HOTM 5 or even 4 relatively quickly. Maybe give yourself a week or 2, right? It really isn't that ridiculous XP wise. Furthermore, the way the system works, which drastically reduces the effectiveness of quests after the 4th daily quest, makes it so that sweats can't just clear everything in a week and say it's boring. This is actually pretty good balance on their part, progression wise. Secondly, when it comes to pandering to both tryhards and casuals, this update really nailed it. Tryhards can go on to get their drills ASAP, but casual players will also not fall behind too far since the effectiveness of tryharding falls off after the first 4 quests, and the casual players will be able to do the 4 daily quests easily within 1 to 2 hours a day and get the main bulk of XP. Of course, there will be mega sweats who are always 1 Heart of the Mountain level above everyone else, but this system makes the gap between players more balanced and together. Also, casuals don't fall too far behind with this update, as Mithril Golems, the best pet for this update, Goblin armor and Glazeside armor are easily obtainable and are not super expensive from the auction house. Meanwhile, while tryhards are able to get their hands on the best armor like Sorrow armor, it isn't that much better that it will drive a huge gap and difference between the rich and the poor players. There will be a difference, but it won't be as huge as what Dungeons was, right? Also, the fact that this update doesn't rely on your previous progression in Skyblock makes it so that all players start on a more even level playing field. And thirdly, this update also improved the quality of life of grinding skills, to make it more interesting for grinding skills and less repetitive, like mining endstone for 10 hours during a coals mining event. Sure, the core of it is still repetitive and yes, you are still mining, but this isn't Windcraft. I mean, the content is not there to compete with Windcraft. You will not be able to get unique content all the time. That is expected of it. But hey, it's still much better than the improved mechanic to make leveling the mining skill not so much of a cookie clicker and to make it more interactive, even though the core mechanic largely stays the same. Furthermore, the fact that this update secretly encourages teamwork also, since doing quests as a group gets titanium quests done faster, and whether this was done intentionally or not intentionally by the developers, it is pretty good since it directly counters the toxicity issue in Skyblock, or at least tries to mend some of their previous updates which encourage more competition and more toxicity. However, before we move on, be sure to smash the subscribe button down below, because at 40,000 subscribers I will be doing a challenge and I want you guys to decide it for me. So feel free to comment down below and the most liked comment will be considered for the challenge. And with that, let's move on to the video. Now, with the positives out of the way, it's time to talk about what could be done better and what I recommend for them to fix. Number 1, bug testing. Number 2, server-side mining mechanics. Firstly, for bugs, I honestly find it hard to believe that they tested the update properly. Sure, the update works fine in isolation, but how did they not think that introducing a new breaking mechanic will somehow not affect things like farming, which are insta-break? I can overlook the one secret in the dungeon which requires you to break melons to access it, because that is a pretty acceptable oversight. It is one very minor part of the game. But for farming, that's a bit ridiculous. Anyways, what I do hope for the developers is to allow its players to beta test said updates that isn't just limited to its update in isolation, but to also test for other mechanics in case any crossover new mechanics impacts other in-game mechanics to make them unplayable. Perhaps it could be better to publicly release changelogs before the update lands in the real legit server, while still allowing beta testers to try out the beta version of it, so it doesn't give the beta players an advantage to invest in items while still allowing them to fix and discover bugs. Secondly, this is a more personal opinion, but a global opinion to the other half of the world. Server-side mining is a pretty bad mechanic sometimes. It works well when you have low ping, but when you have higher levels of ping, this mechanic is basically sending your Australian, Asian, and even some European players a huge middle finger, because even if it reached the point of mining speed to be fast enough to insta-break blocks or close to insta-break them, you will always be limited to your ping. And what's more annoying is when the server lags due to having over 100,000 players, it makes mining a downright painful experience to deal with, because basically you mine a block and the block stops mining and then you're just sitting there waiting, why is the block not breaking? And that is really annoying, especially when it happens multiple times in an hour or so. And yes, to be honest, it is not as bad as doing Floor 7 with lag, but it's still a painful experience and downright not fun. I know I can't really give an alternative for this, but making mining based on your ping and the server TPS during peak hours is not the best mechanic, which I hope could be revamped or improved in the future. Or if this can't happen, then I guess we will just have to live with it. In conclusion, as a whole, I think this update is fine, and while some may find it boring due to the lack of adrenaline-filled content like dungeons and Floor 7, you have to set your minds in expectation. It's a mining update and you're going to be mining. Unless the developers decide to make killing certain mobs give mining XP, which will make it too similar to combat, which I think is another can of worms to open, which I will not debate in today's video. I think that this is one of the better ways to have revamped mining and made it a grindable skill that isn't dependent on a mayor and a simple endstone and stone strategy that never changes. They made mining a dynamic, well-balanced, and a progressive update which gives both casual and tryhards opportunities to work with without driving a wedge between them to widen the gap even more. I do wish that the future items will have more users outside of mining, because it feels kind of worthless to me to just mine to get more ores, to get a better pick, to get even more ores. Instead, I do hope that Heart of the Mountain Tier 5 will have some useful and interesting reforged stones for us to use outside of the mines, such as how Necron armor is good outside of dungeons. I do hope the Dwarven mines has a couple good items outside of the mines to justify more players grinding it, because as it stands, the mines has a healthy and non-toxic progression system which encourages teamwork and hard work, and it will be a waste to not make it worth grinding. And with that, good job to the devs, and what do you think of the update? Be sure to comment down below, and this is Furfsky the Hammy, your mining maniac, signing out. See you guys around.